3:05 a.m. Traverse City, Michigan. The lake was black, silent. A wall of cold air pressed against the shore. Sodium lights flickered over weathered concrete pilings. Fishing boats bobbed gently. Ice cream shops stood dark and shuttered. Nothing moved. But beneath that quiet surface, something monstrous had been growing for years. A pipeline. A poison highway. A betrayal so deep it reached into the very office meant to protect this town. Federal agents lay hidden in the darkness, watching, waiting. At exactly 3:05 a.m., the silence shattered. FBI DHS agents burst from the shadows. Flashlights cut through the fog. Boots hammered against concrete. Voices barked orders into radios. This was Operation Northern Breakwater, and the target wasn't hiding in some fortress across the border. She was sitting in a government office. Coffee cup, employee badge, spreadsheets. Dana Whitford, port director. For years in the job, trusted, dependable, efficient, a mastermind. If you want the full truth about how deep this corruption goes, hit like so this story reaches more people who need to know. The raid came without warning. No polite phone calls. No meetings with lawyers. Just forced. At 2:47 a.m., the green light was given from the regional command center in Detroit. By 2:58 a.m., 620 federal agents were moving toward 41 pre-identified locations across northern Michigan. Warehouses, vacation cabins, storage units, casino backrooms, port facilities. All hit at once. Tactical teams smashed through reinforced doors. Hinges ripped from frames. Flashbangs detonated. K-9 units surged forward. At two locations, cartel operatives opened fire. Gunfire echoed through steel shipping containers for 14 brutal minutes. When the smoke cleared, suspects were either on the ground or in handcuffs. Coast Guard helicopters swept low over Lake Michigan. Searchlights carved through the pre-dawn darkness. Small boats attempting to flee toward international waters were intercepted within minutes. Roadblocks materialized on Highway 31 and M72. Pickup trucks loaded with duffel bags were stopped. Drivers dragged out. Cash and drugs spilling onto the asphalt. By sunrise, 67 suspects were in custody. But the most shocking discovery was still to come. When agents forced open the containers that had been fast-tracked through Whitford's customs procedures, they found no legitimate cargo, no machinery, no commercial goods. They found a chemical weapons stockpile. 3.8 tons. Fentanyl, methamphetamine, heroin, all bearing the unmistakable markings of the Sinaloa cartel. 98,740 to counterfeit fentanyl pills, each one a potential death sentence. 65 kilograms of pure fentanyl powder, enough to kill every person in Michigan, twice. And hidden among the drugs were industrial GPS jammers, sophisticated equipment capable of making entire vessels vanish from every modern tracking system. This wasn't small-time trafficking. This was a military-grade operation. Comment USA below if you stand with the brave agents who stopped this poison. Dana Whitford didn't start big. She started smart. When she took over as port director in 2016, she didn't rush. She watched. She studied every inspection protocol, every shift change, every moment when exhausted workers cut corners. After 6 months of quiet observation, she introduced what she called modernization measures. She reorganized inspection schedules, adjusted shift allocations, created efficiency reports that looked polished and professional. On paper, it was sensible reform. In reality, she was carving blind spots into the system. Then came her masterstroke, the fast-track customs lane. She presented it as a solution for high-priority shipments. Overworked supervisors approved it without hesitation. Efficiency, modernization, buzzwords that opened doors. In practice, pre-selected vessels now breezed through clearance in under 7 minutes. Standard protocol required hours. That lightning-fast lane became the gaping vulnerability the Sinaloa cartel exploited to perfection. As the southern border tightened under layers of checkpoints and surveillance, the traffickers simply pivoted north. The vast expanse of the Great Lakes became an unguarded superhighway, straight into the American heartland. No border walls, no desert patrols, just quiet waters and a corrupt port director with a badge. But moving drugs is only half the battle. The far more challenging part is laundering the cash. Whitford understood this better than anyone. She built a financial system that operated in plain sight. No offshore accounts in the Caymans. No suspicious wire transfers to Panama. Just to tribal casinos. A few hours' drive from the port, investigators call her method snowishing. It proved nearly flawless in the cold northern environment. Every night, couriers arrived at the casinos after midnight. They used fake IDs to purchase high-value chips, played a few quick hands, cashed out clean money. On paper, Dirty drug proceeds had been transformed into legitimate gambling winnings. Casino managers were paid handsomely to overlook rigorous checks. Regular patrons still remember those unfamiliar faces. Massive bets placed without a word, then vanishing like ghosts. In Whitford's office, agents discovered Whitford's network deliberately targeted the most vulnerable. Northern Michigan had become a destination for people relocating from rehab centers and correctional facilities, all hoping to start fresh. To the criminal network, these individuals represented ideal workforce. Freshly released from prison, they were quickly recruited as couriers or decoys, paid in cash, or more insidiously, paid in drugs themselves to ensure ongoing dependence. Expendable pawns in a system that demanded constant supply. Local businesses began noticing unfamiliar cars parked in their lots late at night. Neighbors reported hearing trucks rumbling through quiet streets at odd hours. No one realized they were witnessing the logistics operation of an international drug cartel. In plain sight. Type YES if you're ready to see what happened next. The end came swiftly and decisively. Federal agencies had been quietly tracking Dana Whitford for 8 months. They uncovered financial anomalies through Treasury Department monitoring, customs clearance schedules that failed to match high-risk cargo profiles, a dramatic spike in overdose cases that aligned perfectly with her shipping records. Once the evidence crossed the threshold of certainty, there were no polite notifications. They launched a full-scale war. At 2:30 a.m., the command was given. Just 10 minutes later, Operation Northern Breakwater was in motion. Doors exploded inward. Teams surged through warehouses. Helicopters thundered overhead. Roadblocks materialized. At least 2 locations saw fierce resistance. Gunfire erupted. The firefight stretched 14 minutes through a maze of steel containers, until the last holdout surrendered. By sunrise, the operation had seized 3.8 tons of narcotics, $2.3 million in cash packed in waterproof suitcases. Another $547,000 stashed in various hiding spots, 14 access cards to restricted port areas that belonged to no official. EMPLOYES, a fully loaded 9mm handgun within easy reach on Whitford's desk. She had kept a ready-to-go escape kit prepared at all times. Dana Whitford herself wasn't taken into custody until 7 hours after the operation began. She had been hiding in a rented cabin near Torch Lake. When agents surrounded the property, she stepped out quietly, both hands raised, her expression weary but showing neither resistance nor defiance. The woman who had weaponized bureaucracy, who had turned a peaceful lakeside town into a cartel pipeline, who had enabled the poisoning of thousands, rested without a fight. Share this so more communities understand what's happening in their backyards. The harbor is still there. Operations will gradually return to normal. Fishing boats will keep docking. Tourists will come back in the summer. But Operation Northern Breakwater is left a hard-learned, bloody lesson. From 1999 to 2022, the United States lost more than 727,000 lives to opioid overdoses. Those deaths weren't random. They followed the exact flow of the nation's infrastructure. Drug cartels exploited domestic sea routes, highway corridors, rail lines, and they depended on insiders within the system. People who turned public roadways into the bloodstream carrying poison. Cartels no longer needed treacherous desert border crossings. They could move horizontally through small ports, regional airports, quiet, unsuspecting towns. Without raising alarms. Corruption never announces itself with fanfare. It slips through everyday signatures, routine administrative approvals, dry consulting invoices. No one has time to scrutinize every detail. A single port director armed with perfectly legitimate paperwork and just enough authority can quietly undermine an entire region. As agents sifted through mountains of evidence, one question haunted them relentlessly. How many other Dana Whitfords are still sitting in similar positions across the Great Lakes region? How many mid-level officials are quietly reshaping procedures because thick envelopes were placed in the right hands? The Great Lakes span 94,250 square miles. They touch 8 U.S. states and 2 Canadian provinces, hundreds of ports, thousands of officials, each one a potential vulnerability, each one a potential mastermind. Comment your reaction below if this story shocked you. Investigation revealed layers that went far beyond Whitford herself. 17 additional port employees were implicated in the scheme. Inspectors who looked the other way. Logistics coordinators who altered manifest. Security personnel who disabled cameras at critical moments. All of them receiving payments funneled through the same shell companies. But the corruption reached even further. 3 county commissioners into neighboring jurisdictions had accepted campaign contributions from front organizations tied to the cartel. They pushed zoning changes that allowed new warehouses to be built near transportation hubs, warehouses that became distribution centers for poison. A state environmental inspector had been approving facility permits without conducting proper site visits, paid $8,500 per approval. Over 3 years, he rubber-stamped 23 facilities. Each one became a node in the distribution network. The tribal casino managers had been receiving monthly payments of $12.00 each to facilitate the snowishing operation. They disabled anti-money laundering protocols, trained staff to ignore red flags, created a seamless system for converting dirty money into clean winnings. This wasn't one corrupt official. This was a network, and federal investigators believe they've only scratched the surface. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next in this case. The human cost is impossible to fully measure. In the 3 years before Operation Northern Breakwater, northern Michigan saw 847 overdose deaths, up from 273 in the 3 years prior, 2,130 for emergency room visits for drug-related incidents, an increase of 406%. 19 children orphaned after both parents died from fentanyl poisoning. 6 entire families wiped out. Parents, siblings, extended relatives, all lost to the same poison. These weren't statistics. They were neighbors, co-workers, high school classmates, little league coaches. A 17-year-old honor student collapsed during basketball practice, dead before the ambulance arrived. Fentanyl-laced pill purchased from a classmate. A 34-year-old single mother of 3 took what she thought was a prescription painkiller to manage chronic back pain. Never woke up. Her children found her the next morning. A 52-year-old construction worker, clean for 8 years after completing rehab, relapsed once. Once was enough. Fentanyl concentration in the heroin he used was 40 times higher than what his body could handle. Every single one of these deaths can be traced back to shipments that passed through Whitford's fast track lane. Every single one. If you believe justice matters, comment justice below. The legal consequences are still unfolding. Dana Whitford faces 47 federal charges: conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, money laundering, racketeering, public corruption. Each charge carries a potential sentence ranging from 10 to 25 years. Combined, she could face life imprisonment without possibility of parole. The 17 additional port employees arrested alongside her face similar charges. Bail was set at amounts ranging from $500,000 to $2.1 million. None have been able to post. The 3 county commissioners were indicted on corruption charges. They resigned their positions within 48 hours of the arrest. One attempted to flee to Canada. He was stopped at the border and taken into custody. The state environmental inspector was arrested at his home. Investigators found $147,000 in cash hidden in his garage. The 2 tribal casino managers were charged under both federal and tribal law. They face prosecution in multiple jurisdictions. Federal prosecutors have indicated they will seek asset forfeiture for all properties, vehicles, and bank accounts connected to the scheme. Current estimates place the total value at $38.7 million. Every dollar will be seized, every asset liquidated, but no amount of money can bring back the lives lost. This is the real face of the war we're up against. The enemy doesn't always wear a mask or carry a gun. Sometimes they wear a government badge and sit in an office with an American flag on the wall. They weaponize the very systems designed to protect us. They exploit trust. They corrupt institutions. They turn public infrastructure into private profit machines fueled by human suffering. The biggest lesson from Operation Northern Breakwater is that corruption never announces itself loudly. It hides in the most ordinary positions, cloaked in reliability, wrapped in bureaucracy. A port director with a coffee cup, an access badge, an Excel spreadsheet, quietly opening the floodgates for tons of poison. This lesson reminds us that vigilance must start with every citizen. Pay attention to small changes around you. Question processes that seem to smooth. Support law enforcement when they investigate the uncomfortable truth. Only when society as a whole stays awake and alert can we truly protect our families from this invisible threat. Share this video before it gets buried. What do you think about people inside the system who aid and abet drug cartels? Should they face the same level of legal responsibility as the kingpins themselves? Do they deserve maximum sentences? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The investigation continues. Federal authorities believe Whitford's operation was connected to similar schemes at ports in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Ohio. Task forces are now examining customs data at 14 additional Great Lakes facilities. If the pattern holds, more arrests are coming. This is only the beginning. Stay